Al-Kiram, home of John the Baptist. Where the ox cart came up in the scriptures. Flock of sheep.
Now sometimes I don't know
As the ark supposedly came from that direction, and then through the valley and went in that direction, which would be Kiryat Jearim. This was called the Sorek Valley. This is the Valley of Elah. The Valley of Elah is where David and Goliath fought. Gath, or Gat, or Geth. Gath is mentioned in the Bible 33 times. It was one of the 5 Philistine city-states. Its location may have been Tel Zaphat in Hebrew, which is in a national park. It appears to have been destroyed in the 9th century BC by Hazael, king of Aram, Damascus. We've just climbed a high hill. With a magnificent view. This is the 2 hills. The Philistines were over on the right side. The armies of Israel is over on the left side. And this is the valley where David slew Goliath. It is called the Valley of Elah. Supposedly offensive missiles. Mareshah was one of the cities of Judah during the First Temple period. It was one of the King Rehoboam's fortifications. Because of Zedekiah's rebellion against the Babylonian kingdom and its king Nebuchadnezzar, the inhabitants of Judea were sent into exile. This was the end of Mareshah as a Jewish city. It was later known as part of Idumea. With the conquest of Alexander the Great, it was settled by retired Greek soldiers. The city began to decline during the Maccabee Rebellion.
Oh, be careful.
We're on Tel Lachish.
Right there that we were on before, looking this way. Oh, I see it.
Lachish is mentioned in the Bible 24 times. It has become an Israeli national park. It is located between Mount Hebron and the Mediterranean Sea. It was in the area of the tribe of Judah. It was the second most important city next to Jerusalem. There is evidence it may date back to 3300 BC. Joshua 10:32. The Lord delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel. Micah 1:13. Thou inhabitant of Lachish, she is the beginning of sin to the daughter of Zion, for the transgressions of Israel were found in thee. From Lachish, we can see off in the distance Mareshah and Hebron. As we're walking down from Lachish, we see some of the rock. We're entering Tel Beersheba. This is the entranceway. As we look at the rocks, we see the lower rocks and the upper rocks. The upper rocks, of course, are the ones that are replaced, some of them that are missing.
Stay in the land at this spot. Years ago, of guiding they were the...
Off in the distance is the modern city of Beersheba. Many Russian chess masters live there. Beersheba is now the capital of the Negev, or the south, and is one of the fastest growing cities in Israel. Coming up is both the ancient city of Beersheba and the modern city in the distance. Tell Beersheba.
Gaza is straight over the top of the city. The one called Beersheba has been hit by rockets, not very often. Gaza is beyond it, you can't...
Beersheba. The modern city is now the capital of the Negev, or the south. It is one of the fastest growing cities in Israel. It is larger than Tel Aviv in land area, but has a population of only 196,000. It is home to the Ben Gurion University, a major university in Israel. Also, Socorro Medical Center, and approximately 81 schools and industries. It has a very old well that some believe was Abraham's, but is unconfirmed. It also has a zoological garden, or Negev Zoo. Beersheba's tallest building is a 32-story building apartment. Many more are rising. Chess is a major sport, and Beersheba has more chess grandmasters per capita than any city in the world. Many are from Russia. Not a well. Zin and the Paran Desert. Paran and the Arafah. Zin Desert is an area mentioned in the Bible as containing Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh, which is in Egypt, appears in the Bible 17 times. The wilderness of Zin 10 times. The wilderness of Paran 6 times. Mount Paran 2 times, and Paran by itself 3 times. Arabah appears twice. Sometimes the word plain is used to denote the Arabah, or Negev is not used in some Bibles, but the word south is used instead. There is also a small community called Paran. Most Israeli guides use these terms, especially if they are in the Negev, which can be confusing for tourists. Arad, the tell or hill. Tel Arad is approximately 6 miles west of modern Arad. It is surrounded by mountain ridges known as the Arad Plain. Excavations discovered a Bronze Age Canaanite settlement. Then it was deserted for perhaps 1,500 years. The citadel and sanctuary were constructed at the time of King David and Solomon. It was destroyed when Jerusalem was under siege by Babylonian King Nebuchadnezzar. In the distance is the wall of the old city. It reveals the city was very large. This was the wall of the old city. In the far distance is the modern day city of Arad. Arad is approximately 16 miles west of the Dead Sea. Population is approximately 23,400. It was founded in November 1962 as an Israeli development town and was Israel's first such town. It has an annual music festival. The Israeli National Trail passes through Arad. Going through Arad is the only way to get to the west side of Masada. Southern end of the Dead Sea. Looking north. Dead Sea also called the Salt Sea. In the Bible, it is also called the Sea of Arabah and Eastern Sea. This is the lowest land area on Earth, about 1,290 to 1,388 feet below sea level. 9 times it is mentioned in the Bible. The deepest point is 1,237 feet. It contains 33.7% salt and is about 8.5 times saltier than the ocean. The width is approximately 2 to 7.5 miles and 34 plus miles long. Limited water comes from the Jordan and 2 to 4 inches of rainfall per year. There is no outlet. Temperatures are high because elevation is low. Thus, water evaporates. Salt is left. Water is dropping about 3 foot a year. The Dead Sea has 26 essential minerals, 12 of which are not found in any sea worldwide. It supplies minerals for cosmetics and health. There is no sea life or vegetation. The world's lowest road, Highway 90, runs along the western side. Annually, 1.2 million visitors come here. Many go to the sea for their health because of its minerals, very low UV rays, and the high atmospheric pressure. Thus, good benefits from sunbathing. We have seen dermatitis on a person's hand diminish after a brief swim. Another had hand cuts that healed quickly. It is impossible to drown, as the water only comes to the middle of your chest. Even though your feet are not touching the bottom, you just float like a cork. A person can do a complete turnaround while floating on the water and never get their hair wet. Sodom and Gomorrah, Mount Sodom. It is believed by many that Sodom and Gomorrah were located somewhere in this area, reference Genesis 19, 1-26. Sodom and Gomorrah are mentioned together in the Bible about 14 times. In Sodom, many times more, Genesis 19, 24 and 26. The Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire, but his wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. The land is brimstone and salt. Not any grass groweth therein, reference Deuteronomy 29:23. Mount Sodom is made almost entirely of rock salt. It is reportedly about 5 miles long, very wide, and rises 742 feet above the Dead Sea. Lot's wife, Genesis 19:28. Lot entered Zoar, Genesis 19:24. The Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from out of the heaven, and he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. There is a place where tourists are taken to see a large mountain of salt. On the mountain is a tall piece of salt that if a person uses their imagination, they can see the shape of a woman. This is called Lot's wife. The Dead Sea. We are heading to Masada, which can be entered by the main front entrance or a path which is in the rear near a Roman siege ramp. The Jordanian Mountains across the Dead Sea. That's the beach over in Jordan. We are proceeding to Masada, which was the last holdout the Romans conquered after destroying Jerusalem in 70 AD. Nearly all Israeli tours include this. It begins with a cable car, but we are starting from the rear where the Romans built a siege ramp which they climbed up. Next is the road to the back of Masada, a pathway to come down from the top, the siege ramp the Romans built, and the remains of a Roman encampment. Heading towards Masada, Arad.
There's Masada. See it?
Yep. Look at this thing. We're at the Roman camp, when the Roman camp's behind the, not far from the ramp in the back. The rocks surrounding the camp are about 6 foot high. Tickets! We're going up. What they call a snake path. You can run down.
The temple to Rome.
A model of what it was like on Masada.
Out here, it's a great view. Is you can
Oh, the
see how
load
the Dead Sea is
the
dried
Dead Sea
up.
has become.
And this southern portion is primarily used for their crop.
A side view of the siege ramp. Romans had built several different forts around Masada.
We built a siege ramp.
But
The height of nearby mountains are about even with the top of Masada.
you can imagine, this is one of the reasons why you're not
So, and then over here is a over here you get a good picture of the land.
The siege ramp that the Romans built.
The rest of you stay with Aharon. He's going to take you to this western palace, which is a very...
Masada is 1,800 by 890 feet. Highest point, front side, is 1,424 feet. Back side varies from approximately 300 to much higher. Herod the Great had storehouses, palaces, and more on the top. When the Jews revolted against Rome in 66 AD, Rome responded with massive power under Titus. Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD. Masada was the last holdout. This separated mountain fortress overlooks the Dead Sea. Approximately 960 men, women, and children took refuge there. It seemed no army could conquer it with cliffs on all sides. The Roman 10th Legion, perhaps 15,000 or less, including slaves, surrounded it. 8 stone forts were made and a stone wall to stop any from escaping. The Romans began making a ramp of bedrock so the Jews threw stones on them. Then they used Jewish captives. The stones stopped. Reportedly, the ramp was done in 73 AD and was said to be 375 feet high. The siege may have lasted 2 to 3 years. Opinions vary. The ramp's angle is approximately 21 degrees. Realizing the end had come, the approximate 960 Jewish men, women, and children chose death. They chose, "Let our wives die before they are abused. Let our children die before they are turned into slaves. We prefer death before slavery." 10 men were selected by lot to do this. One was chosen to finish off the 9 and then take his own life. When the Romans went up the ramp the next morning, only dead bodies were there. 2 women and a few children were found alive. Masada, the back or west side. A person cannot walk around the base of Masada to the backside because of the security guard, fences, and cameras. One way to reach the backside is to walk down the Roman ramp path from the top of Masada that joins a path that can take a person to a Roman camp. However, security prevents a person from exploring the camps unless an Israeli guide is present. The other is to the backside is by way of Arad, a city southwest of Masada. This is a very scenic drive, approximately 22 kilometers or 13.7 miles, on a winding road through the desert wilderness to the backside. Herds of camels and flocks of goats may be seen on the drive. Complete scan of Masada. Looking out towards the Dead Sea. Looking south. Looking back out again towards the Dead Sea. Masada Cable Car. This is the lowest elevation cable car in the world. Its base station is 843 feet below its summit. It is accessible on the east side of Masada. Its summit is 108 feet above sea level. The cable car raises 951 feet. The 1971 cable car was replaced in 1998. One can see the steepness of the front side of Masada. This is where the water came down.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the water was gathered. And when we've been here previously, it had water in it, but this time it does not. Masada cisterns, the water supply. The cisterns inside of Masada reportedly can hold 10 million gallons. An elaborate system of channels collect and carry the water into the cisterns. There is little rain at Masada. Departing Masada. Coming up, one of the Roman camps. As we're traveling along, it's quite incredible how much the Dead Sea has dropped over the last many years from what it was, let's say, 30 years ago. entering En-Gedi, where David hid from Saul. Big squirrel.
Yeah, I know.
You can see them here.
Acacia, the Christ thorn bush.
Easily gets over 100 years now. The wars that come running upon him.
Looking back at the Dead Sea from En-Gedi.
Boy, that is
Okay. En-Gedi means Kit Springs and has also been called the Spring of the Goat. In Joshua 15:62, it is among the cities of the tribes of Judah. King David hid in the wilderness of En-Gedi in 1 Samuel 1:21 and 22. En-Gedi has 2 year-round fed streams, plus 2 others. There are many kinds of birds, plants, and animal species. Many come here to the rocks and spend a relaxing day. There is a long tour that few tour companies take, and also a short one that most take.
And then a pretty major one on the left.
En-Gedi is located along the Dead Sea.
The water system works similarly to Masada. Here, and there are a number of cisterns. The other thing about, do you remember the phrase in 1 Corinthians 10 when Paul,
Ruins of the
one of the
Essene
questions
community.
that's often asked, that's debatable. There were some bones of children and women that were found in the Bible. Remember Jeremiah 18? I am the potty.
This is
Usually
the cistern.
limestone track need to plaster.
There are many caves in the area,
Just through over.
and this is reportedly the one where the actual scrolls were found, from what we understand.
One of the questions is why were they placed in the number one to perhaps hide them from the Romans?
Nhưng mà bây giờ chúng ta lấy được cái con đất đó, chúng ta đem hình vào để nói cho biết là ngày xưa Chúa đến đây trước khi đến với người Do Thái.
Dead Sea Scrolls. In about 1946 or 47, a Bedouin shepherd found a cave with scrolls from approximately 2,000 years ago. Then a search of 230 other places in an 8-kilometer area found 40 that had something, but only one produced text were later found, including the Temple Scroll. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of 972 texts discovered between 1946 and 1956. They include the earliest known surviving manuscripts of various works. About 40% are texts from the Hebrew Bible, 30% from the Second Temple period, and 30% sectarian manuscripts of previously unknown documents. Texts are in Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and Nabatean. They have been dated to 408 BC and 318 AD. Other items date to 66 to 73 AD. The Qumran Caves, or Dead Sea Scrolls. The Qumran Caves are located near the northwest shore of the Dead Sea between Jericho and En-Gedi. This is also called the Essene area. Scrolls have been found in several areas. Kibbutz Qumran became well known due to the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. Scrolls date range from the 3rd century BC to the 1st century AD. They had been preserved for about 2,000 years, some in jars, because of the very dry climate. Many contained scripture, but other subjects were also found. Some can be seen at the Shrine of the Book at the Israel Museum. A copy of one was on display at a welcome center at Qumran. Some are now online.
No, I
Make sure you don't drown.
I didn't buy that.
Country of Jordan right across the little Jordan River here. This is a part of the Jordan River that's probably nearest Jerusalem, and where some believe that this is where John the Baptist was actually baptizing.
Yes, girls would love it. May I have the photograph?
The Jordan River here is quite narrow. This is not too far north of where it goes into the Dead Sea.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Oh.
Now heading north, going towards Tiberias, along the Jordan Valley. The road traveling north along the Jordan River, actually it's not along it, but it's parallel to it, all the way from basically the north part of where the Jordan River ends, going into the Dead Sea, going up and towards Galilee. It's just built up tremendously with everything from date palms to businesses, factories, and it's almost one after the other for much of the entire distance. The Balboa Fortress. Balboa means beautiful view, and was built by the Crusaders in 1140 on a primary trade route overlooking the Jordan Valley about 12 miles south of the Galilee. The Muslim warrior Saladin laid siege to Balboa in 1180 for about 4 years, but was unable to penetrate the fortress. Several years later, the Knights of Balboa surrendered and returned to Europe. We're near that fortress, but what we're looking at now is a magnificent view, and at this time we're looking over into the area of Jordan from the mountain, and the view on all sides pretty much is spectacular. We're doing a little closer up view. Again, the valley and mountains in the distance is Jordanian mountains. Although it's foggy, it's still a beautiful view.
This is the Jordan Valley.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's Yarmouk Valley. You see kind of a...
In the far distance is Mount Tabor. This is Mount Tabor is on the opposite side from pretty much from the valley we've just been looking at. Also, Israel is now using windmill power as well.
One place it gets a little wider, but
Jordan
that's
River.
the average. The Jordan. The word Jordan.
Waking up over the Sea of Galilee.
Have a seat here
We're at Tel Hatzor.
in the shade.
Tel Hatzor. Remains from the Canaanite times and the times of Solomon. This name appears in the Bible 19 times. Tel Hatzor is the site of ancient Hatzor. It is located in the southern Hula Valley, overlooking Lake Merom in the upper part of the Galilee, north of the Sea of Galilee. Around the 1750s BC and 9th century BC, it was the largest fortified city in the country. It is mentioned in Joshua 11:10. It is the largest excavation site in northern Israel. The upper Tel is 30 acres and the lower city is over 175 acres. It is a UNESCO site.
Okay, well, I talked a bit about the
The gate to this part of the city. The temple area. Again, filming Hatzor.
So that is Jericho.
This part of the city dates back to about the 9th century BC. King Ahab. It is a water system. This is the kind of tree that Absalom got hung up in. It is called an Elah oak. Elah oak.
No, he says, get out of my area.